Welcome back to Explaining Everything, the channel where we dive into the stories and mysteries behind everyday things. Today's question comes from one of our curious viewers, John Fax 10. Thanks for the suggestion, John Fax. You asked, why do caps have a button on top? If you've ever worn a baseball cap and accidentally smacked your head on a cabinet, only to feel that tiny button on top drill into your skull like it's mad at you, you're not alone. That little thing might seem useless or even malicious, but it actually has a name, a history, and some weird quirks. So if you've ever wondered what that button's really for, or if it's secretly plotting against your scalp, stick around as we uncover the strange story behind the Squatchee, right here on Explaining Everything. Before we get into why it exists, you need to know what it's called. And spoiler alert, it's not the painful dot of doom, although that would be accurate. The official nickname for the cap button is a Squatchee. Yes, really. Squatchee. It sounds like a cartoon sidekick or a fancy Italian pasta, but it's the technical term popularized by baseball commentator Bob Brenly. He just casually coined it one day, and for some reason, it stuck. Now, manufacturers don't typically call it that. They go with something boring like top button or panel cap cover. But Squatchee, that's the one that made it into popular use. And honestly, saying Squatchee is more satisfying than it has any right to be. To understand why it exists, we have to rewind back to the mid-1800s, when baseball caps were first becoming a thing. Early caps were made by stitching together several fabric panels, usually 6, to form that familiar dome shape. Now, when you sew all those panels together, they meet right in the middle, creating a point where a whole bunch of seams converge. It didn't look great. Think of it like a messy haircut, but for your headwear. Instead of finding a fancy way to hide the stitching, manufacturers just slapped a small fabric-covered button on top to cover the chaos. Problem solved. So, the original purpose of the Squatchee? Hide the ugly seams. That's it. That's the whole origin story. Not very glamorous, but functional at the time. Now you might be wondering, okay, but that was over 150 years ago. Don't we have better hat technology now? Yes. Yes, we do. Modern caps can be sewn so cleanly that the top center isn't even an issue. So, technically, we don't need the Squatchee anymore. Caps could be made perfectly functional and clean without it. But the Squatchee stuck around. And here's why. Aesthetics and tradition. Over time, it became part of the look of a baseball cap. It's one of those things people just expect to see, like a cherry on a sundae, or pockets you'll never use in a pair of jeans. Even though the Squatchee serves no real structural purpose, removing it would make a cap look weirdly naked. It would be like seeing a cat without whiskers. Still a cat, just a little unsettling. Now, let's talk about what the Squatchee does do today. Make your life slightly more difficult. Anyone who's ever worn a cap under headphones knows this pain. That little button digs into your scalp like it's trying to break through and access your thoughts. It's especially brutal if you wear over-ear headphones. Suddenly, your chill playlist turns into an endurance test. And that's not all. Have you ever slammed your head into a doorway or car roof while wearing a cap. You don't just hit your head, you hit the Squatchee. It turns into a pressure-amplifying, skull-poking nightmare. Believe it or not all caps have Squatchees anymore. Some companies, especially those designing performance or athletic gear, have started producing buttonless caps. These are made for comfort, especially for people who wear headphones or helmets. They look like regular caps, but without the little scalp torture device on top. In fact, there are even hats with removable or magnetic Squatchees, so you can choose your look or protect your skull depending on the situation. So no, it's not essential. Just like mullets and fax machines, it's something we keep around because of nostalgia. Even though the Squatchee was born from practical necessity, today it's mostly about style. Some brands color it differently from the rest of the cap to make it pop. Others use metallic or rubber materials for a modern touch. There are caps with camo pattern Squatchees, glittery Squatchees, even ones that match your team's logo. It has become more than a patch job. It's a mini-style statement. We've reached a point where removing the Squatchee might actually cause an identity crisis for some caps. It's like a tie on a suit. Not required, but without it, something feels off. So why do caps have that little button on top? Because back in the 1800s, someone needed to hide messy stitching. And instead of improving the method, they just covered it up with a button. And somehow, that tiny fix stuck around for over a century. Today, the Squatchee is basically fashion's leftover. It serves no real function, causes mild discomfort, and yet, we love it anyway. It's tradition, it's charm, it's the weird little cherry on your head sundae. Now, the next time you throw on a cap, you can point to that button and say, "That's a Squatchee." And I know exactly why it's there. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit like and subscribe. And hey, if you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for tuning in, and join us next time here in the channel that answers all the why, what, who, where, and how questions you've always wondered about, here on Explaining Everything.